In December, I did a video, 5 reasons the church is sabotaging Black women's love lives, and I have a little bit more to discuss about that topic. If you're new here, welcome to Heal the New Sexy, where I discuss all things healing, self-love, and relationships for millennial women. My name is Cynthia, and I am a licensed therapist. I'm going to hop right into it. I got 7-ish more reasons why I think the church is sabotaging the love lives of Black women. I want to start off that I believe that the church is supposed to be a safe place for all of us to go, for us to tend, for us to be able to worship God, to glorify Him. But what I've noticed, especially for single women, being a single woman, that there are some predatory practices in the church that need to be addressed. So first, I want to start off with, the churches that know that there are men there that are unhealthy, okay? I remember being 18, moving from Germany to United States, and the jurisdictional bishop asked my mom, so where are you guys moving to? And she told him we were moving to Savannah at the time. And he said, go to this church and not that church, because if you go to this church, he'll be after her. And it made me ponder years later, because I didn't quite understand. It made me ponder, like, why do we know that there are unhealthy men in the church? There are men in the church that lack sexual discipline. Why aren't they being addressed? Why aren't they being held accountable? We see this also not from just leaders, but just lay members in the church, that there'll be a man who meets a woman and he realizes, oh, she's injured, she's wounded, and he will pursue a relationship with her, not for marriage, but only in order to have sex. And we have to be honest about that. I believe church girls are conditioned to want marriage. And because we're conditioned to want marriage, our dating looks very different. You get messages about being submissive. And so in your dating, you try to be submissive. Why? Because you want to be married. I don't know if you know the definition, if you've ever heard about negging. Let me read the definition of negging to you. So negging is to insult or undermine someone in belief that diminished self-confidence will make them more receptive to sexual advances. I grew up with there being a lot of talk about women being the weaker vessel, about, how Eve ate the Eve ate the apple, but Adam didn't. And with that, it made me feel like I was a secondary citizen. And I don't know if any of you may have felt that way. It made me feel like I had to be subservient. But this type of information, when it's not balanced, right, can have you showing up in your dating life in a way that allows men to take advantage of you. And there are men that know that you want to be married. And so they kind of hold marriage as the carrot to have you jumping through hoops in order to be married. It's predatorial. It's not okay. In his book, Father-Daughter Talk, one thing I know he talks about in his videos, Bishop R.C. Blake's, he talks about how a father will teach his daughter, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, but then will take his son to the backyard and teach him every skill in order to disarm a woman. We have to be mindful that this also shows up in church, that there are men that come to church with the mission and the goal to sleep with the women in church. There's a fox in the hen house. And we have to be mindful of that. And women, when the Bible says study to show yourself approved, you have to be studying your word so that when you hear something across the pulpit that doesn't align with God's truth for you, you don't consume it as true. And so you internalize beliefs about yourself, right? Often we hear I was watching a podcast and they were asking about why there's so many single women in the church. And the man said, well, the Bible says a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So if you're not married yet, maybe you're not a wife. That's gaslighting. Meanwhile, he met his wife at a frat party. Now, I'm not saying that you can't meet your wife at a frat party. That's not what I'm saying. But how do you sit in a church with women? I know women fasting, praying, sowing seed in order to be married. And I think some of it is idolatry, right? But how do you sit and say that versus maybe it's because there's not enough men in the church. It does say a man that finds a wife. So maybe there are not enough men. Not that that it's not that you are a wife yet. So there's also gaslighting from the pulpit related to women. There's so much information that's being pushed towards women as to why they're single, but there's not enough conversations to why aren't there as many marriage-minded and ready men, okay? I also see some Christian content for men. I'm looking for a Proverbs 31 woman. Proverbs 31 was not even a real woman. Some scholars believe that Solomon took traits from his multiple wives and wrote Proverbs 31, and some believe that it is a representation of wisdom. So now you have women striving to be a Proverbs 31 woman when really we should be striving to be like Jesus, Christ and Christ alone. Okay, so they're doing this. It's predatorial. It's gaslighting. Oh, I know I'm a Proverbs 31 woman. Also, some of this other stuff that's also men will comment on my videos. You know, there's not a lot of wives out there. There's not a lot of nurturing women out there. It's predatorial. What they're doing is they're trying to attack your confidence. So whether it's from the pulpit or from an individual man, even sometimes in some of my videos, I'll get comments. Somebody commented, "You're going to be single forever." That's negging. You want me to lower my confidence in order to accept a relationship with a man who's not healthy. Predatorial practice. And it's also present in the church. Number 2, modesty. Now, I believe in modesty. I don't believe that you should come to church dressed any kind of way, right? But what I believe is toxic about modesty culture is the overemphasis on you need to dress a certain way in order to not draw sexual attention versus the self-control is a fruit of the spirit. And so if you look upon a woman and your mind goes to something, you need to check you. Because I'm gonna be honest, some of these men not modest in church, but we're not having that conversation. And the reason why modesty is problematic is because, again, if there's any teaching that's attacking your self-esteem, your self-worth, and your view of yourself, you need to question that. God created you in his image and his likeness. He knew that you was going to have breasts, hips, and fingertips. He knew that. You shouldn't feel shame for that. That's how he created you. Yes, that when we go to church, we should be clothed. Yes, we should be decent. But modesty is also subjective. So a curvy woman wearing a dress and a woman who doesn't have curve, this one is a distraction and this one is not. This one is immodest and this one is. We have to address that. Because this woman goes out and dating. She's been taught that there's something wrong with her body. And then this man comes and he tells her how beautiful she is. Girl, you look good. Girl, don't worry about that. You look good. You're so beautiful. And guess what? Because she's been invalidated in church and he affirms her, what happens? What happens? Okay? Number 3, dating long equals sin. Sometimes there seems to be a rush to get married. There's this belief that if you date for a long time that you're going to end up falling in sin. Let me just say this. Sex is not the only sin that happens in dating. Idolatry, I believe, is the main sin that happens, because before you commit sex or before you have sex, you've committed adultery because you've placed that man in the place that God is supposed to be in, right? Listen, there are people out there who done signed PP or done PPP loans for a boyfriend. They've done all other things. Dating long or for a long period of time doesn't mean that you're going to fall into sexual sin. And so we have to stop that. There's a lot of immaturity in the church as it relates to sex. Let's just say that. Let's just call it what it is. And so it's almost as if everything a woman does, there's this, are they having sex? Da, da, da. Listen, there's other sins that you can commit than sex. Okay? That leads me to my next one, purity culture. This, remember, I don't know if you've ever seen this example of they get a white rose and they say, sorry, y'all, do you hear that car? They get a white rose and they're like, everyone who touches it, that's how you are as a woman. Again, negging. Again, gaslighting. So this emphasis that women have to be pure, but men don't have to because of our anatomy and our autonomy. And so what many of you may not know is because I've worked with women who were married, who came out of purity culture. It's hard for them to go from purity culture to be able to having a thriving, fulfilling sex life with their husband, because for so long they felt guilt and shame about who they are. For so long, their purity was based off of works and not based off of who they are, right? There's freedom in Jesus Christ. He makes us pure. It says our righteousness is nothing but filthy rags. He makes us pure. But if you have consumed this indoctrination about what purity is, about what you can do or what you can't do. Now, I am not condoning premarital sex. I'm not saying go out there and do that. But what I am saying is we have to address these beliefs, because what happens is that women don't even want to be approached, because there's this fear, right, that it's going to lead to sin. We've become so sin conscious, we don't have freedom in Christ. It says, who the Son is set free is free indeed. Okay? Number 5, this, and I talked about this I briefly touched on it in my first video. This women being encouraged to wait on a man to approach, right? So there's many women who may be interested in a man and you're waiting on him to approach you. I don't know how he's supposed to know that you like him. I don't know if you sending him telekinesis. I don't know what it is, right? But you're waiting on him to approach. But then there's also in the Bible, Ruth. Did Ruth wait for Boaz to approach, or did she approach? So there's this, and I see women, I'm not going to say nothing to a man. I'm not going to say nothing to a man. Okay, fine. But you've been waiting on Jesus a long time. Is you tired yet? Are you tired? Okay. You keep crying out to God, God, I'm tired. And God's like, well, I sent a man. You won't even speak and say hello to him. You won't even shine teeth. You don't even smile. You don't. So do I believe a woman should shoot her shot? For some women, it's worked. I'm not going to say it's inappropriate. For some women, it's worked. This concept and belief that men are predatorial is not true. A predatorial man is a dangerous man. Hear me. A man who's overly confident shooting his shot, you need to watch him. Let me tell you about predatorial men. They go for the young and they go for the weak, or who they perceive as weak. So every man, especially in church, he's going to be watching and looking. He may not approach you. Why? Because he may feel in church it's inappropriate to approach you. Okay? So you have to show some sign. You have to show some interest. Smile at him. The pastor says a joke. You happen to look and you're laughing. Smile at him. Hey, that's such a nice suit that you have on. I like how you coordinated that. But this sitting and waiting. Oh, and this other thing, and I usually see married church folks ask this question. Why y'all don't like who like you? Meanwhile, you married to who you like. You married to who make your engine purr. But you gonna ask us why you don't like who like you. Everybody who like me is not good for me. And it's a way of gaslighting you, and it's a way of minimizing your being compatible and attracted to a person. Since when did it just be okay, they like me, so I should like them? That's not how it works. And we need to stop presenting that to singles, especially to women, because women are told to like who likes them. Men are told to go after what you like. Do you see the difference? So women are taught you need to settle. He likes you. You need to settle. But men are taught you need to go out there and get what you like. If you like hips, go get it. If you like breasts, go get it. If you like booty, go get it. Go get what you like. If you like them bright, go get them. If you like them dark, go get them. Well, however you like them, go get them. How does that work? So as a woman, you may enter, well, I'm just going to sit here and be pretty and hope that a man approaches me. But meanwhile, the man that I liked, or the man I was interested in, the man I thought was interesting, and I wanted to get to know him. Meanwhile, he's gone on and he's married someone else. Why? Because she know how to show a sign. And I'm gonna do videos about this. I'm gonna do videos. If you're a Christian woman and you want to know how to show your interest into a man, I'm gonna do videos. Some people don't like it because some people like, no, a man that finds a wife, no, you shouldn't. Okay, that's your belief. That's your belief, and that's fine. I'm not going to disagree with you or your belief, but what I'm tired of seeing single women in church sitting on their laurels, waiting on a man. Faith without works is dead. So where's the works? Where's the works? Like I said in the other video, you wait, you ask God for a plan for everything else. There has to be a plan for God for you to be married. He'll direct your path. Okay. Number 6. I feel like in church, Stoicism is kind of encouraged for women. I remember in my previous video, a man commented that he went to a singles event. There are a lot of women there, but they they kind of were giving off the energy that they didn't want to be approached. And depending on what background you have, you come from certain denominations, Stoicism is seen as being holy and righteous, right? In order to have a relationship, there has to be a level of friendliness. So we can't be off. You can't want a man to approach and be off-putting. You can't want a man to approach and when he's walking towards you, you're frowning at him. So we have to address that. You can't be stoic. You have to be kind. You have to be inviting. And I know in some churches, because there's so much, it's really immature. I think women kind of avoid men approaching them in church specifically or in church gatherings, one, because there's this automatic thought that, oh, okay, they dating, okay, what they gonna do? You know, those things like, oh, don't go out late at night because, you know, the only things open at night is Legs and Waffle House. That type of immature mentality. It's immature. It's immature, right? So being friendly, being open to being approached, even if it's after church, in the parking lot, slowing down, sis. Slow down when you walk to your car. Don't be in a rush. Slow down when you walk to your car, right? So if he wants to say, hey, sister such and such, I just want to talk to you for a minute. Would you be open to, you know, going to coffee tomorrow? I would love to be able to talk to you and get to know you. Slow down, okay? And don't be so stoic. Be warm and be inviting. And the flip side, and I know this, I brush, but let me say this. I see a lot of women who are beautiful women. And I think they have, because they've been falsely accused, right? They put on the persona of not wanting to be approached, but they really want a man to approach them. But again, men are not predators. So we have to stop that. Men and predatory men only go after what? The young and the weak. Okay. Number 7, and my final point. Lack of practical dating or courting advice. I use the term dating, and I've had people in my comments, Christians don't date, they court. Okay. I don't believe that's true. At least here in the United States, I don't believe that's true. I believe why the state of relationships look the way they do in the United States is because there's not practical advice on how to walk this thing out. This person's doing it this way. This person's doing it this way. And then people are like, oh, we don't date, we court. But they're not teaching how to do that, and they're not encouraging it. People come in my comments, we court, we don't date. No. What is happening and what I see is that because many of us were undereducated or miseducated as relates to relationships, that we are trying to figure it out. We're putting the pieces together. We're throwing stuff at the wall and we're seeing what sticks, because there doesn't seem to be a very clear way on how to move from interest to marriage. 1, 2, 3, ABC. There isn't. And I believe that's what's sabotaging many of us, because the only example that we've had is the world's way. We haven't had people in the church who were courting and who we could watch and who we could emulate it. It hasn't been talked about over the pulpit. This is what it looks like to court. And then if you look at the Bible, many of us, our fathers aren't saying, hey, I got a daughter, you got a son. Okay, well, they may be a good match. Let's put them together. The Bible, as it relates to Jacob went to Rachel's father. I don't see men saying, hey, that's your daughter. I'm interested in her. I don't see that. So we need more information, and I'm going to do some videos and practical tips on how to date. What boundaries should be in place? What's inappropriate? What conversation should we have in dating versus what conversation we need to have when we're engaged so that we can have a successful marriage? It's not there. And many times when we are seeking to get to know someone, we're leading with romance versus leading with, can this man be my friend? Does he like me for who I am? Do I like him for who he is? What do we have common interests? Do we have common goals? Do we have common what's the word I'm looking for? I went blank. I can't find the word. But what commonalities do we have? And if we don't have things in common, because you're not going to have everything in common, because you're two individual people, can I support him there? And will he support me as well? There's so much work, I believe, that has to be done in this area, but I also believe that we have to be honest about the work that has to be done. We have to be honest about the people that come to church and they're predatory, that they're seeking to take advantage of women. We have to be honest about that. We have to be honest that there are a lot of women that have been conditioned to be submissive, that have been conditioned to just go with the flow in order to be married because marriage has been esteemed. There's a verse that talks about, how a married person, their focus is their marriage and the family, and a single person's focus is that of God. But the truth of the matter is, because of the indoctrination as it relates to marriage, so many people are hyper focused and have idolized marriage. Guilty. Have idolized it. Guilty. Right? And so you can't even focus on your singleness. You can't even focus on being satisfied in singleness. You can't focus on your purpose because you're just hoping that one day you'll get married. And that's your focus. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear from you down below. Again, this is Heal the New Sexy, and my name is Cynthia. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.